Desmond Tutu, South Africa's anti-apartheid icon, died on Sunday at the age of 90 after a protracted fight with prostate cancer and infections in a hospital in Cape Town. Tutu was the first black Anglican Archbishop of South Africa. He labored relentlessly and non-violently to bring down South Africa's brutal, decades-long apartheid dictatorship that oppressed its black majority, which ended in 1994. He was noted not just for his part in bringing an end to a dark chapter of racial discrimination in his country, but also for speaking out against injustice across the world, notably in West Asia. Tutu was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1984 for his nonviolent opposition to apartheid. A decade later, he witnessed the ends of that regime. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said Tutu's death marks another farewell to a generation that has struggled for the liberation of South Africa. He described Tutu as a man of extraordinary intellect, integrity, and invincibility against the forces of apartheid. Ramaphosa added that Tutu was also tender and vulnerable in his compassion for those who had suffered oppression, injustice, and violence under apartheid, and oppressed and downtrodden people around the world.
There's a number of things that he leaves behind. One is that particularly during the anti-apartheid struggle, he showed and demonstrated the relevancy of Black theology and African theology onto the situation, onto the context. He was able to help define the struggle, not in a way in which someone who was an oppressor would define it, but in some ways of someone who was struggling against the oppressor and against oppressive theology. He was very much a backbone of the anti-apartheid struggle. His voice was clear and clarion, and obviously he used the weight of his religious office, his ecclesiastical office, to elevate the issues around apartheid and the need to dismantle it.
Tutu was also an outspoken critic of Israeli crimes against Palestinians. He believed Palestinians have been subjected to Israel's systematic humiliation, similar to the one practiced in apartheid South Africa. Archbishop Tutu was an outspoken critic of Israeli occupation in Palestine and the siege on Gaza. He compared Israel's treatment of the Palestinians to the apartheid regime that discriminated against blacks in his native South Africa. Tutu led a UN fact-finding mission to investigate a November 2006 Israeli attack on Gaza's Beit Hanun district that led to the deaths of 19 Palestinians, including 7 children. In a May 2008 statement about his mission, the Archbishop decried the Israeli siege on Gaza, in place since 2007, as a gross violation of human rights. He also said the Israeli siege contradicted the Jewish and Christian scriptures. Most recently, in an article published in the Israeli newspaper Haaretz in 2014, Desmond Tutu declared his support for the international movement of boycott, sanctions, and divestment as a peaceful means of opposing the Israeli occupation.
Well, he related what was going on in Palestine to what he had struggled against in South Africa, which was, again, apartheid, or the separation of people, or segregation, as we call it in this country, and Jim Crow in this country, apartheid there in South Africa. He saw it, he recognized that. He said basically that it was no different, and in fact, what was going on in Palestine was just as bad, if not worse, than what had gone on in South Africa. And so it was clear his eyes were eyes that were seasoned in the struggle. When I say seasoned, had gone through it, was able to recognize the dynamics of it, the violence of it, the racism in it, the white supremacy that existed in it, and he called it for what it was. That did not win him a whole lot of friends in those ranks, but because of who he was. The weight of his words and his perspective could not be denied.
Archbishop Desmond Tutu's death on Sunday sparked tributes from world leaders. Pope Francis sent his condolences, hailing his peace-building efforts. UN Chief Antonio Guterres hailed Tutu as an inspiration to generations worldwide, an unwavering, voice for the voiceless.